A mother and her young daughter were visiting New York City. The mother was trying to hail a cab when her daughter noticed several wildly dressed women who were loitering on a nearby street corner. The mother finally hailed her cab and they both climbed in, at which point the young daughter asked, "Mommy, what are all those ladies waiting for by that corner?" The mother replies, "Those ladies are waiting for their husbands to come by and pick them up on the way home from work." The cabbie, upon hearing this exchange, turns to the mother and says, "Ah, come on, lady. Tell your daughter the truth. For crying out loud, they're hookers." A brief period of silence follows, and the daughter then asks, "Mommy, do the hooker ladies have any children?" The mother replies, "Of course, dear. Where do you think cabbies come from?" A bakery owner hired a young female shop assistant who liked to wear very short skirts and thong panties. One day, a young man enters the store, glances at the shop assistant and at the loaves of bread behind the counter. Noticing her short skirt and the location of the raisin bread, he has a brilliant idea. "I'd like some raisin bread, please," the man says. The shop assistant nods and climbs up a ladder to reach the raisin bread located on the very top shelf. The man, standing almost directly beneath her, was provided with an excellent view, just as he had thought he would get. When she descends the ladder, he decides that he had better get 2 loaves. As the shop assistant retrieves the second loaf of bread, one of the other male customers notices what's going on and requests his own loaf of raisin bread. After many trips, she is tired and irritated and begins to wonder, why the unusual interest in the raisin bread? Atop the ladder one more time, she looks down and glares at the men standing below. Then, she notices an elderly man standing amongst the crowd. Thinking that she can save herself another trip, she yells at the elderly man, "Is it raising for you too?" "No," stammers the old man, "but it's quivering a little." A woman invites her lover over while her husband is out of the house. The lover comes over and they have their fun, but before they finish, they hear someone coming up the stairs. "Oh no," the wife says. "It's my husband. Quick, find somewhere to hide until I can get you home safely." She runs into the connected bathroom and turns on the shower. The lover manages to get his underwear on before noticing that the husband is about to enter. He sweeps the rest of his clothes under the bed and dives into the closet. The husband noticed some commotion going on as he entered the room, so he started checking around to see what was going on. When he opens the closet, he sees the lover there, rifling through some coats and mumbling to himself. Hello?" the husband asks. "What are you doing?" The lover turns around nonchalantly and says, "Oh, hello. You must be the man of the house. Your wife called me over to get rid of a moth infestation in your closet." "And you're doing this in your underwear?" the husband asks. The lover looks down at his body, jumps a little bit, and says, "Damn, they work fast." A man walks into a department store. He says to the sales lady, "I would like to buy a Baptist bra for my wife, size 36B. With a quizzical look, the sales lady asked, "What kind of bra?" He repeated, "Baptist bra. She said to tell you she wanted a Baptist bra and you would know what she wanted." "Ah, now I remember," said the sales lady. "We don't get as many requests for them as we used to. Mostly our customers lately want the Catholic bra, or the Salvation Army bra, or the Presbyterian type." Confused and a little flustered, the man asks, "So what are the differences?" The lady responded, "It's all really quite simple. A Catholic type supports the masses. The Salvation Army lifts the fallen. The Presbyterian type keeps things staunch and upright." He mused on the information for a minute and then asked, "So what is the Baptist type for?" "They," she replied, "make mountains out of molehills." An elderly man accidentally rear-ends a flashy sports car. Furious, the young driver jumps out, glaring at the damage. "Look what you did to my car!" he yells. "You're going to give me $10,000 right now, or I'll beat you to a pulp." The old man sighs. "Oh dear, I don't have that kind of money. But let me call my son. He trains dolphins. He'll know what to do." "Dolphins?" the guy scoffs, rolling his eyes. The old man pulls out his phone and dials his son, but before he can speak, the angry man snatches it away. "So you're a dolphin trainer, huh?" he sneers. "Well, your old man just wrecked my car. I need 10 grand now or I'm gonna beat both of you to a pulp. Maybe you can train your dolphins to fetch some cash." A calm voice on the other end replies, "I'll be there in 10 minutes. Exactly 10 minutes later, a pickup truck pulls up. A massive man steps out and walks toward the bully. Before the guy can react, the newcomer headbutts him so hard he crumples like a rag doll. The big man casually catches him, lays him in a heap by the road, then turns to the old man. "For the last time, Dad, I train seals. Navy SEALs, not dolphins." A priest and a nun are traveling to a distant monastery when their car breaks down in the middle of nowhere during a raging blizzard. They manage to find an old, abandoned cabin for shelter. Inside, they discover a bed, a sleeping bag, and a small pile of blankets. Being a gentleman, the priest offers the nun the bed, while he takes the sleeping bag on the floor. As they settle in for the night, the nun calls out, "Father, Father, I'm cold." The priest gets up, grabs a blanket, and tucks it around her. "Is that better, sister?" "Yes, Father, much better," she replies. He crawls back into his sleeping bag, but just as he's drifting off, "Father, I'm still cold." With a sigh, the priest gets up again, fetches another blanket, and carefully tucks her in. "There, sister. Warmer now?" "Oh, yes, Father. Much better," she assures him. So he settles back into his sleeping bag, determined to sleep at last. But just as dreams start to take him, "Father, I'm so cold." The priest pauses, thinking it over. Then, in a calm voice, he says, "Sister, we're stranded in the middle of nowhere in the dead of winter. It's just you, me, and the Lord who will ever know what happens here tonight. How about just for this one night, we act as if we're married?" The nun considers this for a long moment. Finally, she gives a small nod. "All right, Father. Just for tonight, we'll act as if we're married." The priest smiles warmly. "Wonderful. Now get up and get your own damn blanket." A rabbi and a priest meet up after not seeing each other for a year. The rabbi looks the priest up and down and says, "Wow, you've put on some weight." The priest chuckles. "Yeah, I've discovered a new technique. You go to a restaurant, eat as much as you can. When the bill comes, you tell them you already paid." The rabbi raises an eyebrow. "But the waiter won't believe you, right?" "Of course not," the priest replies. "That's when you say, 'How dare you doubt a man of faith?' Works like a charm. You can just walk out." The rabbi strokes his beard. Interesting. I think I'll try this." That evening, the rabbi heads to his favorite kosher restaurant. He feasts on 5 full plates, then waits for the bill. When the waiter brings it over, the rabbi calmly says, "Oh, I already paid." The waiter frowns. "I'm pretty sure you didn't, sir." The rabbi leans in. "You know I'm a rabbi. How dare you doubt a man of faith?" The waiter hesitates, then bows apologetically. "Oh, my mistake, Rabbi. Please have a wonderful evening." 15 minutes pass, then 30, then 45. An hour later, the waiter notices the rabbi still sitting at the table. Curious, he approaches. "Sir, why are you still here?" The rabbi leans back, folds his arms, and says with a smile, "I'm waiting for my change." Mr. Jones took his nymphomaniac wife to the doctor for a treatment. "This is one hot potato of a lady, doctor," he said. "Maybe you could do something for her. She goes for any man, and I get very jealous." "We'll see," the doctor said. He directed Mrs. Jones into his examining room, closed the door behind him, and told her to undress. Then he told her to get up onto the examining table on her stomach. The moment he touched her, began to moan and squirm. It was too much for him to resist, and he climbed on top of her and began to scream. Mr. Jones suddenly heard moans and groans coming from the examination room. Unable to control himself, he pushed the door open to be confronted by the sight of the doctor using his wife. "Doctor, what are you doing?" he asked. The flustered doctor replied, "Oh, it's you, Mr. Jones? I'm only taking your wife's temperature." Mr. Jones opened his switchblade knife and began to hone it on his sleeve very deliberately. "Doc," he said, "when you take that thing out, it better have numbers on it." A midget with a lisp decided to buy a horse. Went out to a farm and asked the farmer if he had a horse for sale. "I sure do. Come around back and I'll show her to you." Out back, the midget walked around the horse and asked the farmer if he could see her teeth. The farmer lifted him up to see the horse's teeth, then put the midget back down. The midget walked around the horse again and asked if he could see her ears. The farmer, getting irked, obliged him again. Third time around, the midget asked if he could see her. By now, the farmer was pissed, walked the midget around to the backside of the horse and said, "You want to see her? I'll show you her." With that, he hoisted the midget up and crammed his head into the horse's. Little arms and legs flailing, he waited a few seconds and pulled the midget out and set him back down on the ground. Midget gets up, shakes his head, gasps for air, and says, "Perhaps I should rephrase that. Can I see her run around for a few minutes?" Kenny, a city boy, decided to embrace country life and bought a donkey from an old farmer for $100. The farmer promised to deliver the donkey the next day. The following morning, the farmer arrived with bad news. "Sorry, son, but the donkey died." Kenny frowned. "Well, just give me my money back." "Can't do that," the farmer said. "I already spent it." Kenny thought for a moment. "All right, then. Just unload the donkey." Puzzled, the farmer asked, "What are you going to do with a dead donkey?" "I'm going to raffle him off," Kenny replied confidently. "You can't raffle off a dead donkey," the farmer exclaimed. "Sure I can," Kenny said. "I just won't tell anyone he's dead." A few weeks later, the farmer ran into Kenny and curiously asked, "So what happened with that dead donkey?" Kenny grinned. "I raffled him off, sold 500 tickets for $2 each, and made a profit of $898. The farmer was shocked. "Didn't anyone complain?" "Just the guy who won," Kenny said. "So I gave him his $2 back." One night, a dad was walking past his son's room and heard him praying, "God bless Mommy, Daddy, and Grandma. Ta-ta, Grandpa." The dad didn't think much of it, but was happy his son was praying. The next morning, they discovered Grandpa had passed away from a heart attack. The dad figured it was just a coincidence, but it still gave him the creeps. The next night, the son prayed again. "God bless Mommy and Daddy. Ta-ta, Grandma." Now the dad was really starting to get nervous, but he waited. The next morning, Grandma was found dead, also from a heart attack. By now, the dad was completely freaked out, so he decided to stay up outside his son's door the next night. Sure enough, the boy prayed, "God bless Mommy. Ta-ta, Daddy." The dad was terrified and rushed to the doctor the next morning to make sure he was healthy. When he finally got home, his wife was waiting for him on the porch, looking relieved. She said, "Thank God you're home. We really need your help. We found the milkman dead on our porch this morning." Joe grew up in a town so tiny, the welcome sign didn't bother with welcome. It just said hi. After escaping to the big city for college and law school, he returned home with a dream. In a place this small, being slightly impressive made you a local legend. He'd be the legal eagle of Mayberry, the courtroom king of cornfields. He opened a law office, leather chairs, framed diplomas, and one of those fancy pens you never actually use. He had everything, except clients. Then one day, a miracle. A man walked briskly toward the front door. Joe's heart nearly burst from excitement. His first client. Showtime. Thinking fast, Joe grabbed his dead phone and launched into the performance of his life, a full-blown, Oscar-worthy monologue worthy of Law and Order. Delusional intent. "No, tell the Wall Street guys I don't do discounts," he barked. "$1 million minimum, or I walk. Yes, I'll be in court next week. Lead counsel, obviously. My associates? They're the backup dancers. I'm the Beyoncé of litigation. And someone warned the DA, I can squeeze him in between saving democracy and lunch." 5 minutes of pure, undiluted bluffing. He finally hung up, turned to the visitor with a dazzling grin and said, "Sorry about the wait. Things are a little hectic today. What can I do for you?" The man blinked. "I'm from the phone company. I'm here to install your line." After the Great Britain Beer Festival in London, all the brewery presidents decided to grab a drink together. The president of Corona sits down and says, "Senor, I'll have the finest beer in the world, a Corona." The bartender dusts off a bottle from the shelf and hands it to him. The Budweiser president follows, saying, "I'll take the king of beers, a Budweiser." The bartender serves him one. The Coors president nods and says, "Give me the only beer brewed with pure Rocky Mountain spring water, a Coors." He gets his drink. Then the Guinness president sits down and casually says, "I'll have a Coke." The bartender raises an eyebrow but hands him the soda. The other brewery presidents turn to him confused. "Why aren't you drinking a Guinness?" they ask. He smirks and replies, "Well, I figured if you guys aren't drinking beer, I won't either." An elderly couple is in bed. After a few minutes of silence, the old man lets out a fart and says, 7 points. His wife turns to him puzzled and asks, "What in the world are you talking about?" The old man grins and says, "I'm playing fart football." A little while later, the wife lets one rip and proudly announces, "Touchdown, tie score." 5 minutes later, the old man farts again and declares, "Touchdown! I'm winning 14-7. Frustrated by losing, the wife lets out a big one and shouts, "It's a tie game now." Feeling the pressure, the old man decides he won't lose. He strains with all his might, but instead of a fart, he accidentally poops the bed. The wife hears the noise and asks, "What was that?" The old man calmly responds, "That's the whistle for halftime. Switch sides!" Two blondes were taking their first train trip to Toronto on the train. A vendor came down the corridor selling bananas that they'd never seen before. Each bought one. The first one eagerly peeled the banana and bit into it just as the train went into a tunnel. When the train emerged from the tunnel, she looked across at her friend and said, "I wouldn't eat that if I were you." "Why not?" "I took one bite and went blind for half a minute." A woman is sitting beside a businessman on an airplane. The businessman is quite bored, so he tries to get the woman to play a game with him. "Let's play a game. We take turns asking questions. If I can't answer one of yours, I'll pay you $5. But if you can't answer one of mine, then you'll give me $5. The woman ignores him and tries to sleep. "Okay. How about if I lose, I give you $100 and you only give me $5? Again, the woman declines. Okay. How about I give you $1,000 if I lose?" The woman, finally having had enough, agrees. The businessman goes first. "What's the circumference of the sun?" The woman doesn't know and pays him $5. Then she asks the businessman, "What has 6 legs, goes up a hill with 10 legs, and comes down with 5 legs?" The businessman realizes he has no clue of the answer and he would have to pay up. He searches it up on Google, asks everyone on the plane, and calls all his friends, but no one knows the answer. At last, he reluctantly pays the woman $1,000. The woman, satisfied, goes back to sleep. The businessman taps her shoulder. "I have one last question. What was the answer?" The woman sighs and takes out $5. I was a very happy man and was about to get married. There was just one thing bothering me. It was her beautiful younger sister, Sophia. My prospective sister-in-law was 22, wore very tight miniskirts, and generally was braless. She would regularly bend down when she was near me. I always got a nice view. It had to be deliberate. She never did it around anyone else. One day she called me and asked to come over, to check the wedding invitations, she said. She was alone when I arrived. She whispered to me that she had feelings and desires, or me. She couldn't overcome them anymore. She told me that she wanted me just once before I got married. She said, "Before you are committed to my sister." Well, I was in total shock, and I couldn't mutter a word. "I'm going up to my bedroom. If you want just one last wild fling, just come up and have me." I was stunned and frozen in shock as I watched her go up the stairs. I stood there for a moment, then turned and made a beeline straight to the front door. As I'm walking to my car, lo and behold, my entire future family was standing outside clapping. With tears in his eyes, my father-in-law hugged me and said that I had passed the test and he couldn't ask for a better man for his daughter. And the moral of the story is, always keep the condoms in your car. John and his girlfriend Mary decide to become bank robbers. Mary does the actual robbing at gunpoint inside the banks, while John waits outside as the getaway driver. They are initially successful with a string of heists that make headlines, and they become folk heroes. Until one day their luck runs out and they get caught. At trial, the judge condemns Mary to 10 years in prison, while John gets 2 years. However, once they get to their respective prisons, they discover that due to a clerical error, John will be serving 10 years and Mary only 2. Despite her insistence, John convinces Mary to keep quiet about it. After 2 years, Mary gets out and she continues to visit John faithfully every month, and they exchange letters and phone calls regularly for the remainder of his 10 years. Finally, after he does his time, John gets out and is joyfully reunited with Mary. They get married and move to a different state and start anew, leaving their life of crime behind. They raise a family with children and grandchildren, and eventually reach old age after having lived a happy marriage. On their 50th wedding anniversary party, the entire family and friends are gathered. A great celebration is had with many laughs and stories recounting their life together. The conversation turns to the secrets to a happy marriage. One of the guests asks Mary why she decided to stick with John while he was in prison, despite all of the hardships. Mary answers, "Well, you know you have found the one when you finish each other's sentences." After my retirement at the company I worked at for 50 years, I looked forward to some relaxation time and putting my feet up, but my wife had other ideas. She insisted I take her to the local shopping center every day. Like most men, I found shopping boring and preferred to get in and out. She's like most women. She loves to browse and leaves me with endless time to fulfill. Yesterday, my dear wife received the following letter from the local shopping center. "Dear Mrs. Harris, over the past 6 months, your husband has caused quite a commotion in our store. We cannot tolerate this behavior and have been forced to ban both of you from the store. Our complaints against your husband, Mr. Harris, are listed below and are documented by our video surveillance cameras." June 15th, he took 24 boxes of condoms and randomly put them in other people's carts when they weren't looking. July 2nd, set all the alarm clocks in housewares to go off at 5-minute intervals. July 7th, he made a trail of tomato juice on the floor leading to the women's restroom. July 19th, walked up to an employee and told her in an official voice, "Code 3 in housewares, get on it right away." This caused the employee to leave her assigned station and receive a reprimand from her supervisor that in turn resulted in a union grievance, causing management to lose time and costing the company money. We don't have a Code 3. August 4th. Went to the service desk and tried to put a bag of M&Ms on layaway. August 14th. Moved a caution wet floor sign to a carpeted area. August 15th. Set up a tent in the camping department and told the children shoppers he'd invite them in if they would bring pillows and blankets from the bedding department, to which 20 children obliged. August 23rd. When a clerk asked if they could help him, he began crying and screamed, "Why can't you people just leave me alone?" EMTs were called. September 4th, looked right into the security camera and used it as a mirror while he picked his nose. September 10th. While handling guns in the hunting department, he asked the clerk where the antidepressants were. October 3rd. Darted around the store suspiciously while loudly humming the Mission Impossible theme. October 6th. In the auto department, he practiced his Madonna look, using different sizes of funnels. October 18th. Hid in a clothing rack and when people browsed through, yelled, "Pick me! Pick me!" October 22nd. When an announcement came over the loudspeaker, he assumed a fetal position and screamed, "Oh no, it's those voices again!" Took a box of condoms to the checkout clerk and asked, "Where is the fitting room?" And last but not least, October 23rd. Went into a fitting room, shut the door, waited a while, then yelled very loudly, "Hey, there's no toilet paper in here!" One of the clerks passed out. A man buys a paint factory in a small town. He visits the local volunteer fire department to see for himself if they'd be able to handle a fire at his plant. What he finds convinces him they could not. The whole fire department consists of one old pumper truck and a bunch of volunteers he finds less than reliable. He tells them, "Boys, I'm sorry to tell you this, but I'm not confident you could handle a fire at my plant. I'm going to contract with the nearby big city fire department." A few months later, the unthinkable happens and the plant catches fire. The owner calls the big city fire department, and when they show up, the fire chief decides that it's just too dangerous to approach the plant. He decides to set up a roadblock to prevent anyone from going near it, and they begin to wait it out. Just then, the local boys come barreling down the road, fire bell clanging and siren blaring. The driver is waving his arms to get the big city firemen to move out of the way and crashes right through the barricades. They smash through an overhead door into the plant, set up a few hoses and start fighting the fire. The guys without hoses grab shovels and start flinging dirt onto the fire. The big city fire chief sees this and shouts, "Come on, boys, let's get in there and help 'em out." After a few hours, their efforts pay off, and they manage to save a large portion of the plant. The owner is happy as he can be and tells the local fire chief, "That was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Thank you. I'm going to write you a check and donate $10,000 to your fire department. Do you have any idea how you're going to spend it?" The local chief thinks for a moment and says, "Well, I don't know what we're going to do with the rest, but first thing tomorrow morning, that fire engine is getting new brakes." One November afternoon, I picked my daughter up from kindergarten. She eagerly crawled into the back seat, and I asked, "What did you do today?" "We learned that boys are different from girls," she said excitedly. I glanced at her in the rearview mirror, barely able to see the top of her head. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to keep things casual. She smiled brightly. "My teacher told us that boys have a thing and girls don't." I froze, unsure how to respond. "Well, yes, they do," I said cautiously. We sat in silence for a moment, and then she added, "That's how girls know boys are boys, because of that thing that hangs down." I mentally calculated the drive home. The usual 5-minute commute now felt like an eternity. She continued, "Did you know when boys see a girl, they puff up?" My palms began to sweat. Well, I stammered, still grasping for anything to steer the conversation in another direction. But she wasn't done. "Why do the girls like the boys to have those things?" she asked. I stopped. I mean, what woman hasn't asked herself that question at least once? Well, I hesitated, but she didn't need me to answer. She had her own explanation. "It's 'cause it moves when they walk. The girls see it and they know he's a boy. Then the boy sees the girl and he puffs up and she knows he likes her too. And then they get married. And then they get cooked." That last part threw me off a bit, but overall I had to admit, she had a pretty good grasp of things. As soon as we pulled into the driveway, she hopped out of the car and pulled something from her school bag. "I drew a picture. Do you want to see?" I wasn't sure I did, but I took a look anyway. I had to sit down. There, all puffed up, looking irresistible to the ladies, was a crayon drawing of a big tom turkey. His snood, the thing that hangs down over his beak, was magnificent. His tail feathers were standing tall and proud. I couldn't help but laugh. She looked a bit offended at first, but when I told her I loved it, which I did, she got over it. That was the end of that conversation. For her, anyway. But every year since, I can't help but think of it, and to be honest, I've never looked at a turkey, or a man, the same way again. A woman joins a country club and overhears some guys talking about their golf game. She chimes in, "I used to play for my college's golf team. I was pretty good. Mind if I join you next week?" The guys are a bit hesitant, but no one wants to say no, so one man finally says, "Okay, but we start at 6:30 a.m. He hopes the early tea time will discourage her. She hesitates for a moment, then asks, "Is it okay if I'm up to 15 minutes late?" They roll their eyes, but reluctantly agree. The woman shows up at 6:30 a.m. sharp, plays an incredible 2-under par round, and beats every one of them. She's friendly and pleasant, and the guys are thoroughly impressed. They congratulate her and invite her back the following week. She smiles and replies, "I'll be there at 6:30 or 6:45. The next week, she shows up right on time at 6:30 a.m. And this time, she plays left-handed. The guys are floored as she still beats them with an even par round. They can't figure out how she's doing it, but they're amazed by her skill. She's gracious, compliments their good shots, and the guys can't help but invite her back. The third week, she arrives 15 minutes late, which irritates the guys. This time, she plays right-handed and barely beats them, keeping the competition tight. The guys mutter to themselves, thinking the late arrival is a little game of hers, but she's so charming and complimentary that they can't stay mad at her. Afterward, they grab a couple of beers at the clubhouse, and one man finally asks, "How do you decide whether to play right-handed or left-handed?" She blushes, then grins and says, "Well, I'm ambidextrous. It depends on how my husband sleeps." Before I leave in the morning for golf practice, I pull the covers off him. If his willie's pointing to the right, I golf right-handed. If it's pointing to the left, I golf left-handed. The guys burst out laughing, but one of them, still curious, asks, "What if it's pointing straight up?" She winks and says, "Then I'm 15 minutes late." Pierre, the famous French fighter pilot, takes his girlfriend Vicky out for a picnic by the River Seine. It's a beautiful day and love is in the air. Vicky leans over to Pierre and says, "Pierre, kiss me." He grabs a bottle of red wine and splashes it on Vicky's lips. "What are you doing, Pierre?" says the startled Vicky. "I am Pierre, the famous fighter pilot. When I have red meat, I have red wine." She smiles and they start kissing. A moment later, Vicky says, "Pierre, kiss me lower." Our hero tears her blouse open, grabs a bottle of white, and starts pouring it all over her breasts. "Pierre, what are you doing?" asks the bewildered Vicky. To which Pierre exclaims, "I am Pierre, the famous fighter pilot. When I eat white meat, I have white wine. Things really start to steam up." Vicky leans close to his ear and whispers, "Pierre, kiss me lower." Our hero rips off her underwear, grabs a bottle of cognac, and pours it in her lap. He then strikes a match and lights it on fire. Vicky shrieks and dives into the river. Standing waist deep in the water, Vicky throws her arms upwards and is furious. "Pierre, what in the hell are you doing?" Our hero stands up defiantly and says, "I am Pierre, the famous fighter pilot. When I go down in flames."